I'm Dave Zuvic, and I'm with Perry Niehaus, and we have just finished writing a book called Flip Your Pyramid. And I thought today would be a good time to talk about what it's about, what we're trying to do with this book, and just kind of discuss, why would people want to buy it, or maybe even take back where we came from in the title,
Okay, so I guess that's a good place to start. So I guess the question is why did we decide to write this book? Or why did I decide to write this book? Because I think I co-opted you into it about a month into it. I decided to bring you into it, and we started recording some discussions.
You're like a networker, because you just started meeting me for coffee and stuff, and no idea why, but we would always chat, and at one point you just said, now I know why we're working together.
Yes.
We're going to write a book together. And I said, oh, okay.
Now, it was interesting when we started this project. The project started out a little differently than where we ended up. We started this project, I was going to write I remember we talked about having a book by the name of Power of How. And because there's one principle that I've learned over the years is the magic of getting something done is asking the right question, the question how. And then as we carried on through it, we soon discovered through all the discussions we had about self-help, and we discovered that it was a $10 billion a year industry, and more importantly, we asked the question, why is it a $10 billion a year industry?
More importantly is, is there one that actually works? Because we've both done it, tried different types, and so.
Well, and I guess that's why it's $10 billion every year, because everybody keeps searching for the next one, and next one, and next one. And as you can see by that shelf of books that I've got there, and you can see that shelf of books. Yeah. And that's about maybe a third of them. At home, I got another couple shelves like that. I've been searching for the answers for a long time. From the time I was 20 years old and laying in bed, couldn't get out of bed for 3 weeks because of depression after my first wife left me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I started searching then, and I remember the first book that I read in that search was a book called The Magic of Believing, and the second book I read was a book called The Psycho-Cybernetics, and third one I believe I read was Think and Grow Rich. And I imagine everybody watching this has heard of some of those books or even read them.
Think and Grow Rich, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Napoleon Hill, I believe it is. So I'm well read in this subject, and I've learned a lot of things. But what we soon discovered is we decided to write a book to go through all the self-help industry and all the self-help techniques and identify what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, because we would have all these discussions about what we've experienced over our lifetimes and what we got out of it. And then I think eventually we realized the common denominator is nobody explained why, really.
Well, all those years I was looking, right? I was looking for the answer. What I was looking for is I was looking for somebody that had a step-by-step solution, that when you followed each step of that solution, you progressed on a gradient scale to an outcome, which was whatever one was aiming at, but
getting to your goals.
But if each, I don't know about you, but I've had the experience in life that I'll make some headway and then I'll fall back. Yeah. And I'll make some headway and then I'll fall back, I've always seemed to recognize in myself that I had this self-destruct mechanism, if you could say. I don't know where it came from, right? But I seem to have this self-destruct, so I could make headway, and I always felt guilty about this, that I'd make headway and fall back. Make headway and fall back.
Sorry, so which is the guilt? That making headway or falling back, or just the end?
Because
for me, I could see a bit of guilt. You're doing well and others aren't, or something, or I don't deserve this, or all kinds of thoughts.
All of that. I don't think there's one thing. you know, I guess what it boils down to is when we don't know what's causing a problem, and somebody says, well, here's the solution, because everybody that's done this, or people who have done this, and not everybody, people who have done this, we use an analogy in the book about going to the moon.
Yeah.
And you know, I've asked the question for years, how do I get the moon? And the self-help industry basically says, well, there's the moon, and when you get to the moon, you're going to love it, because everybody that's gotten to the moon loves it. Okay, how do I get to the moon? And well, there's the moon, and when you get there,
sorry, I bet if you asked all the people that were already there how they got there, they'd all have a different answer.
Well,
because they don't really know. It just sort of happened.
Well, I'll give you an example. A gentleman who wrote The Power of Now. I'm trying to remember his name.
I'm trying to think of his name. I know that book.
Yeah, it's on the shelf here. Anyway, he lives in White Rock, so he's not there very far. But when he wrote the book of Power of Now, what I recognized is he stumbled onto discovering, and he didn't even tell us how he found it, but he discovered present time, and he discovered Tolle is his name, Eckhart Tolle.
Right? Yeah, he's in White Rock.
I believe that's where he was living when he wrote the book. Right?
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah. So he stumbled onto a concept called the power of now, or late, basically present time. And he discovered that when he stayed in present time, when he was operating, he was far more effective, right? And so he doesn't know how he got to present time. He can't tell me how to get to present time. He only can tell me when you're operating in present time that your life is going to be great. Okay,
so
good.
Just do it. Yeah.
So just do it. So it's like the guy whose car breaks down on the side of the road, and he opens the hood and he wiggles a wire, and the car miraculously runs after that. So he writes a book of how do you fix a car as you wiggle the wire, right?
Well, it's like you're saying, you're wanting somebody to give you that step-by-step approach, but if you don't understand the steps or why they're there, then if you miss one or don't do one properly, you don't know you're doing it wrong.
Well, as you will discover in our book, we break that down, and we did an analysis of self-help and applying one of the 4 solutions to any particular situation. And as you read the book, you'll discover that most self-help actually are not dealing with the problem. They're dealing with the symptom of the problem, and they really don't know the cause of the problem.
Yes. So what is this book going to do for people that read it?
Well,
that's tough. There's more than
okay. So to start with, you're going to get an understanding. We call it flip your pyramid for a reason, but you're going to get an understanding of how you as an individual, how your mind works, and how you've arrived at the position you're in, at the position you are right now. You're going to talk about the accumulation of knowledge and how the accumulation of knowledge and experience tends to narrow one's viewpoint as opposed to broadening. You would think the more experience we get, it would broaden our viewpoints of the world.
Yes.
And we find in a majority of the population, the more experienced they become, the older they become, the more narrow-minded they become. They can't take on new ideas. And we explain how that happens and why it happens.
Yeah, that's exciting, actually.
And then we give you actually a solution of how to control that in order to change it. And we describe what a flip your pyramid is that inflection point where you go from a narrow point of view and knowing everything to a flip over to a widening point of view where you realize that the more you discover, the more there is to know. And so instead of your pyramid becoming narrow, from that time on, your pyramid widens.
Yeah, so it's a representation of your life possibilities or how you think. Or
I think more importantly, it's a representation of your mindset, right?
There you go.
You know, we all know the guy that's 72 years old, who's grouchy and set in his ways, and you try to take him new information, he kicks you off his porch, if you know what I mean, right? We know those people that just cannot receive new information. If it doesn't fit with what they already believe and already know, they just discount everything.
But I think that as people read this, they'll recognize themselves as that 72-year-old guy for the most part. You know?
I'm not going to presuppose that, but they may. Yeah, that may be an outcome of what happens while they're reading it.
Yeah, and what we're doing here with these videos is we're going to talk more and more about the concepts in the book, because we didn't want to make it a huge book by over describing everything. So the concepts are in there, and we put lots of examples so people can see what we're trying to say, but there's a lot more in-depthness that we wanted to get into. So we're going to do these videos to help those that have read the book or aren't sure if they want it. It's for them.
Like you and I know that we've gotten off on one particular subject. I'll just give you an example. We got off on the idea of an intention, right?
Yeah.
I believe we probably spent 2 hours that afternoon describing and going through intention. You can't put that all in a book. I mean, I don't know how we would write that all in a book and have anybody have an understanding of it. So
exactly,
I believe these call them podcasts or videos that we do are going to give people some more in-depth understanding of each of the principles we talk about and some of the nuances. You know, you and I are involved on a weekly basis on call it a mastermind, if you will. And when we cover a particular subject, and it's interesting that we'll take a chapter in a book that we've all read and separately or several times. You know, I've taken chapters. Some of the chapters we've taken, I've taken courses on it. And yet, when we as a mastermind get together for an hour on a week and take that chapter and tear it apart and discuss it, I learn more about that subject in that 1 hour than in the 8 or 10 hours of study that I put into it prior to that. And it's just incredible what happens when we get in a discussion. Right?
That's right, because people have their own viewpoints on things, or they have their own expertise that we don't know about that they add.
Well, and what happens is that kind of triggers our creativity, you know, that you know, and I've had some flip your pyramid moments when you and I have been in the middle of discussion. All of a sudden a new way of looking at something pops in, and it's just like how did I not see that before? And it's right there, right?
Well, did you want to explain a bit more about what that means, flip your pyramid, or did we already kind of...
Well, it's that ha-ha moment. Flip your pyramid means when you move from a fixed point of view of something you believed for most of your life is reality, and you discover that by using other people's points of view, and you look at it differently, all of a sudden you realize that you only had a sliver of reality, and there's a much broader view of what that situation is, and it changes your whole concept of it.
Right? That's interesting you just said that. I was just thinking about you're going from wrong to right, but you're not. It's just more information.
Well,
it's not, we don't have to worry about something being absolutely wrong or absolutely right. It's you're gaining more perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll use an example in the book. Okay. I'm right now looking at a square, right? I'm looking at a rectangle. It's
from your point of view.
From my point of view, it's 3 inches.
Or from that camera point of view, yeah.
Yeah, and from me, it's 3 inches by 6 inches. What are you looking at?
I see a sliver.
And it's what? How wide is it?
You know, like a quarter inch, half an inch. But from that camera, you know,
so that's what you see.
That's what I see. Exactly.
That's what you see.
Yeah.
So which one of us right?
And which one's wrong?
The truth of the matter is we're both right.
Yeah.
Because if you and I change positions now, you're seeing that and I'm seeing what you're seeing because we simply changed perspective, point of view.
And it's the same thing. It hasn't changed at all.
But most people are stuck into this one point of view because that's the only point of view they've looked at it, and they believe that that's right. And because that's right, the only information that gets in from that point on, and we'll go into why this happens, the only information they're able to take on from that point on is that that's three inches by 6 inches, and that's what a cell phone looks like.
And that's their point of view, and that's the only thing that's right, and everything else is wrong.
Correct.
Unfortunately.
And it's only because they haven't been able to take other people's points of view. So one of the principles we teach in the book is to ask yourself, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? And how that opens up the mechanism that allows in additional information. Right?
Yep, I think that's probably, from our point of view, that all makes sense. People that haven't read the book,
Yeah, they may want to
Sorry.
read. They may want to read the book.
You know, we'll have to get more into it, but
I believe we start covering that at about chapter, and I don't quote me on this. I think about chapter 3 we start covering that. I should have the table of
I
contents.
forgot myself. So we've gone through it so many times.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to start this video series, and hopefully we'll have it set up so people can add comments or questions and that sort of thing, so we can address them in new videos, because we're gonna do it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to go and purchase the book. So we'll have everything set up, and welcome to our podcast or
Yeah.
video series.
Now
as we
we're
launch this.
led to believe, if you see the picture, we're led to believe the publisher will probably be changing the cover. So we'll have the one.
Yeah, I was just,
Once we've published, you'll see the new cover up there, and then you'll know that we've swapped over. We switched over.
That's right. So the book isn't out yet, but we're hoping in the next couple of weeks. So
We're planning for the next couple of weeks. Of course, we don't know how long the publisher wants to handle it before he actually puts it up.
so stay tuned. Perfect.